You realize that the friction is real, but now comes the really terrifying part. What if the only way out is to blow up everything you've built? We often stay stuck in unsustainable patterns because we fear that changing our pace means sacrificing our impact or our income. We're jumping back into the second half of our deep dive conversation with Blake Schofield, the founder of Impact with Ease. This episode picks right up in the middle of Blake's own transition from corporate exhaustion to intentional entrepreneurship. We're going to be digging into her 48-hour rule, which is a tactical framework for identifying when your do it yourself spirit is actually sabotaging your growth. We're going to talk about raising the floor, how to shorten the duration of your worst days so your ceiling naturally rises, and the investment mindset, why the most responsible founders are the ones most afraid to ask for help. This is less about hacks and more about resilience. If you're waiting for a sane life to just happen once you hit your next milestone, you're chasing a horizon that doesn't exist. This concluding part of our 2-hour interview is the map for building a business that gives back to you instead of just taking from you. I'm really glad that I got to do all of this work because, I got coachable and I worked with a coach for a very long time and then started doing other coaches, trying to just find any improvement that I possibly could. And that kind of leads me to my next question because, you talked about the work and being very goal oriented and having a plan and everything needed to go according to plan. When you decided to go out on your own, was it hard for you to seek out coaching and programs, right? Because you kind of strike me as this person who have a goal, see a goal, hit a goal, just keep pushing, just keep pushing. Like, did you hit a wall that made you seek out coaching and working with all these different consultants and trainers and getting to this place? Or was that something you were already thinking about as part of the plan and process for going out on your own?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would tell you that in the past, um, especially growing up in corporate, I believed in 3 to 5 year plans and knowing all of the steps and figuring it out before I took action.
Mhm.
Um, because I had built and turned around large businesses in corporate, when I became an entrepreneur, I'm like, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
um, Very quickly, what I experienced was, I think what most people do, I focused on like picking out my logo and building my website and the whole thing
Mhm.
before I ever served a client or understood who I was wanting to serve.
Yeah.
Big mistake, most people do.
Mhm.
And I started researching online to figure out how to build the business and how to get clients. And what I saw was um, a bunch of people saying this is the only way to do it. And I looked and I was like, clearly, this can't be right because I have 10 people telling me their way is the only way.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that can't possibly be right. And so I was not by the time I, like, really got into moving and trying to get clients and run my business, I was probably 3 months in, and I was so overwhelmed and so confused.
Mhm.
At the time, I remember, saying to my husband at the time, um, "I can't do this, I need a mentor." So, it took me trying to navigate it on my own to realize I am way too confused, and, I can't I'm struggling. Um, Investing in that very first program was extremely difficult for me. I had never invested in myself outside of college.
Mhm.
Um, I was petrified that I would invest this money and it wouldn't work. And I was 6-ish months, I had saved about a year's worth of income to become an entrepreneur. I thought, a year, I'm set. And I was about 6 months into that entrepreneurship journey, realizing I'm nowhere near my trajectory. And if something massive doesn't change, I'm going to have to go back to this corporate career that was killing me.
Yeah.
And so when I invested that money, it was a significant chunk of the money I had left.
Mhm.
Um, and I shared this with you when we talked about this yesterday. One of the best gifts that my ex-husband gave me was that at a time that I didn't believe in myself, he believed in me more than I believed in me. And so he had watched me for 18 years um, be successful in my career, but I had such a limiting view around what I was capable of,
Mhm.
as I think many of us do. And he said to me, we invest money in the stock market all of the time. for an 8 or 10% return, of which, um, you get no votes on whether that works or not work. And he said, "I know you, and I know if you put, your heart in it, that you'll get a better return than that."
Wow.
And, he was dead on right, and I'm very, very grateful because, um, I felt so selfish taking that money to invest in myself at the time. I felt, uh, very worried that I had made a mistake leaving my corporate career and could not be successful, and, it was his belief in me and really essentially giving me the permission that I was struggling to give myself, to invest in that program that radically changed the trajectory of my life. While that program turned out to not be what I anticipated it to be, um, it I learned how to navigate and meet other people, and, um, the relationships I built there opened door after door after door after door for me, for years. And the program helped me really uncover actually that a huge part of the opportunity was mindset. A
Uh,
huge part of the opportunity was how I viewed what was possible, and that my belief system that I had to take this huge pay cut in order to do more fulfilling work was wrong.
yeah.
And the foundation of that set the course of the last 9 years for me. But I went through, right, all of, I think, the very traditional struggles that anyone that becomes an entrepreneur goes through.
Mhm.
Um, and, I sit here today now having invested a significant amount of money over the last 9 years working with coaches and consultants to
Same.
numbers that are, quite shocking to most people.
Mhm.
Um, And most people look and go, "She must just be brave. She must just have a lot of confidence. She just must be different than me."
Mhm.
And that's just not really true. Um, I had to learn how to do it step by step and learn how to build a level of confidence in myself that the success I had in one arena could be success in something else, that I could figure out how to navigate uncertainty and be successful. And so I went from a person who took months or years to make big decisions, uh, overanalyzed everything,
Mm.
got caught in absolute rumination cycles. That was my life. High anxiety, 50 plus, 60, 70-hour work weeks, to a person who um, lives pretty easily in uncertainty. I don't plan things out anymore to that extent. I am really able to be present in the moment and capture opportunities and find new paths forward. So, today I have a goal and a perspective about what I want to accomplish, but
Mhm.
I now know that that goal or that perspective is just a plan. And the minute it hits contact with reality,
Oh, yeah.
then I
Oh,
can
yeah.
change it. And that is a gift to be
Mhm.
able to say, I didn't fail because it's turning out differently. It is an understanding that that's the reality of how the world actually goes, and that most people don't believe that. And they spend so much time attached to whatever they thought it was going to look like that they actually create failure for themselves
Yeah.
because they aren't adapting and they aren't seeing the possibilities, the opportunities, the things that are coming their way. And so I'm very grateful um, to my coach, Dr. Jeff Spencer, who was an Olympian, 9-time Tour de France mindset coach, and he coached Lance Armstrong and Tiger Woods at their peak.
Huh.
He's really the one that helped shift my perspective about how to accomplish your goals, no matter how challenging, and it has revolutionized, my life in such amazing ways.
Wow. The mindset portion, right? Like working in sales and being a sales trainer and coach, right? I am forever kind of floored at just the wide range of the mindset conversation. Everything from like fake it till you make it and just lie to people until you're at the level that you want to be to like other people making it so much the other side of it that, like, you don't have any business doing any of these things until your mindset is correct, you know? And, there's a lot of mindset stuff inside of sales, right? Like, if you don't believe that the product is solid, you're not gonna sell anything. If you believe that it's expensive, no one's gonna buy it, and everything. But it's also interesting because it's not a pill that you just take, like, it takes a long time to kinda look at that stuff and really sit with it and, work on it, right? I think fake it till you make it does more harm than it does good in the grand scheme of things. Do you agree with that statement, or am I a little too skeptical?
Mm. I think we each have our journeys.
Hmm,
And uh, as I said, I believe life is always teaching us lessons. And everything that we go through is is an opportunity to get more clear on how we can create a life that we really want. And
hmm,
so, I think about that very first program that I went into.
mhm.
Um, I went into a group program, had no idea that the group program was like 150 people and there were only like 4 or 5 people featured on each call.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
wow.
That was surprising. I could have taken that circumstance and said, I was lied to, I was cheated, I was whatever.
I got sold.
And instead, what I did was go, oh, I'm really struggling in these areas. Let me meet people. And
Mhm,
so I met an amazing woman, Erin File, who was in the program with me, and she had sales background. And she helped me understand how I could apply these things and get them to work for me.
mhm,
And I met all of these other people that turned out to be such great gifts in my life that expanded my perspective because they had entrepreneurial experience and background. And what I also, as a result of that, started seeing patterns.
mm,
Oh, this problem I'm having, these 6 other people are having. Why is that? Oh, we're all running um, higher end businesses with more sophisticated consumers. This doesn't seem to be working. But yet, when I go to the coaches, I'm told, fix your mindset, bro. Um, I'm told that my instinct about where my client is not right. That everyone is in Facebook groups. And I'm like, meh, I'm serving like professionals doing XYZ that don't have time. I hate Facebook groups. I don't think that's where they're at. Nope, everyone is. That's your problem.
mhm,
And so what I started to see were the gaps and problems inside their program and what
mhm,
wasn't actually working, and the fact that most people believed it was their fault, including me for a good period of time. And through that journey, what I had to experience was 3 different coaches telling me 3 different answers. Finally, I got on a group call. Very difficult to be on a group call with 150 some odd people and admit that you're struggling. And
yeah,
finally, I got so frustrated on that call that I just point blank called it out. All 3 of you have told me 3 separate things. What's the real story?
mm,
And it took evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence before I trusted myself to say, they have a program that works well for a certain type of person. The program needs to be updated because it's outdated and is not working for a substantial portion of the people in here. And
yeah,
some of the things they are saying are not ethical. Some of the things
mhm,
they're doing, they're telling somebody this and then they're going and doing that. And I have enough evidence to see that I need to leave.
yep,
And if I had not been through that experience and seen how I reacted in those experiences, how I didn't trust myself, how I kept going back to ask people for help, how I needed evidence upon evidence upon evidence upon evidence until I got angry enough internally to say, no, I see what's going on here and it's not what you're saying. Right?
mhm,
I would never have learned that lesson, and it took me a while and many layers to really learn that lesson, to trust my inner compass, to
cool,
really be able to understand, how I felt and what was it telling me and what did that mean. But it was the first place that I began to really see, what were my patterns in this circumstance and what is my lesson? And I'm so grateful for that because, by the way, I saw that before many, many people in the program.
Mm.
And then I was able to say to my friends, hey, by the way, this is happening to these 8 other people and they have the same circumstance. And like, I think this is what's happening. And so as a result of that, I was actually able to help a number of friends who were struggling and believing it was their fault too.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I
when you say like, fake it till you make it and all of those things, I believe so much in integrity and honesty. Um, It is the, like, core foundation of who I am as a person, and, um, getting really clear on that as one of my deepest values in life means I now see the signs and symptoms of when I'm in environments or with people that don't value that,
yeah.
and I
Oh,
no longer question myself. I no longer, allow um, the gaslighting of what people
yeah.
sometimes do when you see those things, and it was not necessarily an easy journey to be willing to see that not everyone shares the same value system that I share,
Yeah.
but it was an important lesson because it was a lesson I kept getting over and over and over again, and so to your point, this fake it till you make it and whatever else, um, I think that I know that we all have an inner compass. Um, and we know in our body when something feels wrong. But so often we're listening to somebody else telling us that that's not it. You just need to push through. Um,
It's not that bad.
it's your mindset, it's XYZ. And I think it's important to understand our brain does lie to us all of the time.
Yeah.
We do absolutely have survival based reactions to things that can create panic and project out a future that is not true. And our body never lies in that it's telling us always the truth, even sometimes when our brain is trying to override it. And so,
Mm.
for me, a huge part of my personal journey in unlocking what you say, like, oh, how do you get there? Um, was to learn how those three things showed up for me. And almost build an encyclopedia of evidence to really be able to trust myself.
Oh, I, it's so interesting because, like, I had my phase of, buying every program and course that I could, get my hands on after I'd gone out on my own as an entrepreneur. Now, I'd already kind of, like, changed my thinking about investing in myself, and I'd been working with a coach for a long time and everything, and one of the things that I tell people is, I had to unwind a lot of different things that I'd learned on my path of being in corporate sales for a long time and then transitioning. But a lot of what I really had to unlearn were like things that I was learning from a sales trainer that I was paying to go to because, he didn't have a problem bending the rules. And I can remember one time like asking this question and him just treating me like I'm like just the dumbest person on the planet for like asking this question because it felt like lying. And he goes, John, it's not lying. Thankfully, I'd had that experience, and then I went and I talked with my business partner, and he was like, "Well, man, if you can't feel good about it, like, you shouldn't be doing it?" And so, like, I'd already kind of unlocked some of that, but, that idea that you're paying for this, so therefore it must be true and must be valid is very real in some of these programs. And one of my biggest pet peeves is, like, the whole like, and you hit it on the head, "Well, you gotta go fix your mindset, and then everything is gonna work according to plan." Like, I've seen that over and over and over again, and it goes all over me, right? Because it's just not true. It gives them a lot of room to be like, "Well, it's not my fault?" So, that's a very real thing because, courses and consultants and coaches, most people have had bad experiences with them, right? No lasting change, no lasting impact. So I don't begrudge people for having kind of the negative association with like the term coach and consultant. But I never really thought about the idea that I'd already been in a spot and in a place to where I was allowed to like do what felt right for me, including like making changes. So that way by the time to where I'm going through some of these marketing programs and they're trying to talk about, well, here's how you should sell it and everything. And I'm like, nope, this is just wrong. And I could go ask for a refund and get my money back. I've never really thought about the idea that if you're not in that environment to where you're really empowered to like be yourself and call your own shots and do with what you feel is right, after spending some time realizing how easy it is to sell ourselves on these things, that's probably like a very high mountain to climb. That's fascinating.
There are so many things that we inherently assume. Like Mark Twain has that quote, "It ain't what you know that gets you in trouble, it's what you know for sure that just ain't true."
Yep, heard that today actually in an audiobook, and it's one of my favorite lines anyway, so it's weird that this is coming up again because it just showed up in an audiobook today, but yeah, it's
I
the
it
little things.
it's so true. So, I think often, like, a lot of people might say for their career, "I want work-life balance."
Mhm,
And then we assume that we're talking the same language. This is some of what I learned, moving roles. Like, when I went to work at Target in 2010,
mhm,
there were 12 of us that were brought in to be apparel and accessory buyers, and 3 months in, the 11 other people are complaining about the job. I'm not kidding when I tell you, literally, we're all together and they're all complaining, and I'm confused because
mhm,
the job is exactly what I thought it was gonna be. So I'm like, "What did I do differently than the rest of you?"
yeah,
Right? Because you clearly are disillusioned, it's not what you expected. And what I began to realize was that I had a process of diving deeper
mm,
and really uncovering and getting to those things that most people didn't. And I think again, this is a place where, like, so often we're so focused on believing that we're we're talking the same thing. We
yeah,
believe the same thing, or that we just have to tolerate some of these things that we don't even realize the potential friction and challenges and problems that come from that. So, I've had so many clients that are like, "I want work life balance." I'm like, "Great. What does that mean to you?"
yes,
And then when you start talking to people, it's very different in terms of, like, tangibly, how does that show up in your life on a day-to-day basis? One
mhm,
person's like, "I wanna work from home. I only wanna go to the office once a month. I, want set meetings so the rest of the time I can work freely." The other person's like, "I wanna be able to, take my kids to the doctor without having to worry. I'd like to be able to come in at, 9
yeah,
o'clock instead of 8:30." These are very, very different perspectives about what work life balance would look like. And
yeah,
so when people are going to interview at companies, they're saying, "Well, what do you value?" "Oh, we value work life balance." Great. Um, and then when they show up and the boss's view of work life balance is, "I don't have you working on weekends."
yeah, that should be
Um,
enough. You should be happy.
yeah,
Yeah,
then we have these huge disconnects where it's like, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be." And so You know, one of the greatest things I think we can unlock is self-awareness.
could
I had
not agree more.
no
Yeah.
no idea the value of that. By the way, a survey was done that asked people, "Are you self-aware?" Do you know what percentage of people said they were self-aware?
I'm gonna say like 98%.
It was like 80 some odd percent. Do you know what percentage actually are when you do it to metrics?
Oh, uh, wow, what a great question. I've always kind of had this notion that most people aren't very self-aware, but trying to put a number around it. I'm gonna say like 15%.
Yep,
Really?
yep.
That's so funny.
And so I think it's one of those things, right? We assume because
Mhm,
we don't know the gap. It's the same thing. I would have people come to me, you know, either unclear on what to do next in their career or in their job search, right? And struggling.
mhm,
And they'd be like, "Well, I pretty much know what I want. I just need help with X." And then I would start asking them questions. Tell me exactly what you're looking for. Tell me what you're best at. Tell me how you do that work. Tell me. And I was like, "No, you have about 10%. You have about 10% of what you actually need in order to truly get where you wanna go."
hmm,
And so I had no idea when I started entrepreneurship that it was a personal development journey. I had absolutely no idea that developing myself from a level of truly understanding who I am would radically improve every area of my life in the most amazing ways that I could have never imagined. I can sit here today and tell you that I didn't know it then, but I know it now because of where I am in my journey. That I was, when I was in corporate and doing this work, I was probably an 8 or 9 out of 10 in anxiety every single day.
Oof.
Um,
Yeah.
the level of stress and anxiety I was carrying um, was unsustainable. I had shingles at 28 years old. And I really was like, I thought it was a spider bite. When the doctor told me, I said, wait, that's an old person disease. Like, how do you get that at 28? And he told me stress and gave me no help. Um,
Mhm.
and then I did what we all do, which is try to normalize it.
Yeah.
So I found other people in my industry that had also had shingles in their 20s. And I went, oh, it's just this industry and I'm not alone.
Mhm.
But it was my body giving me warning signals very, very early on. And so I didn't know it because I had been under such high stress my whole life that it was the frog in boiling water. I could see it, right? I have these
Yeah.
knots in my shoulders. I wake up ruminating or thinking about my to do list. I can't shut my brain off. Um, I, uh, I have a hard time relaxing. I can't sit still. I certainly couldn't have meditated. I mean, sitting still
Yeah.
for 5 or 10 minutes back then was horrific. And today I can tell you that, like, I love just sitting. I can sit outside or sit for an
Same.
hour. My mind is quiet. I feel a sense of peace. Um, I can navigate chaos without chaos overtaking me. Um, I have a sense of joy and peace that I never thought was possible.
Mhm.
And I'm present in my life in ways that I really struggled to be. And I thought so much of what I was trying to solve was like, I just need this job that will let me do these things so that I can experience the type of like connection and presence and joy and peace and ease that I wanted. Um, and it took me this whole journey to really be able to understand that it wasn't just about the job.
Yeah.
And, I hear from people, they're like, can't I just take a quick assessment or can't I just whatever? Um, because we live in a society that wants things to be fast and easy. And that's
Oh, yeah.
part of the problem. Um, the work that I do with my clients, they'll tell you openly, uh, it's 10 or 20 years worth of rapid movement in months.
Yep.
Like, these are things they would have died by a death by 1,000 cuts and were over and over and over again and losing all of that time,
Mhm.
not enjoying their life, to within a matter of weeks, rapidly improving their life. And so I think when if I were listening to me and going, "Oh, like this woman's done all of this work and that would take forever and I don't have the time or energy." What I would tell people is you absolutely do. It can start really small and you can see progress literally in 3 or 4 weeks
Yep.
where you are doing the work while you're improving your life. I talk about a methodology called raising the floor. Most people are chasing their highest highs and they're not
Oof.
satisfied.
Yeah.
Like, it's this whole struggle. I'm not happy until I hit my goal. I hit my goal. I'm happy for like a hot second and then I'm off to the next goal. And so most of your life is chasing something in a horizon that's never moving.
Mhm.
But what one of my mentors taught me was the greatest way to sustainable success and real growth is raising the floor. So, how do you shorten the depth and duration of your worst days, moments, or years?
Oh, I uh, I've been on this kind of path for, probably 13, 14 years now, right? Getting really comfortable with myself, challenging myself, really diving deeper into who I am and everything. And, first of all, there was that period to where, like, I didn't really like silence or solitude and everything because it was easier to fill my time with goals and
Mhm.
conversations and all these things and, coping just by trying to move forward and hit my goals as opposed to getting to the place to where I'm really comfortable with myself. Um, But one of the things that I tell everybody is like, you know, uh, it doesn't have to take that long. Now, I think it takes a while for the place to show up to where you can get better at this. And sometimes I'll have this mode of like I'll be going through like a season of struggle in the business or something else like this, or I'll have like a lot of deals not go my way.
Mm.
And even though with all the work about being able to detach from the outcome and focus on the process and all this other stuff, I'll have these moments to where like I'll get in my head and I'll have a moment of, old John coming back up with like all the negative self-talk and I'm beating myself up and I'm spiraling. And then I'll have this moment of like, oh my God, I do all this work and then I'm still like in my head and doing all these things. And I've had to reframe that of like, it doesn't last nearly as long. It doesn't go nearly as deep. It's not nearly as damaging as it once was. So let's just appreciate it. Let's just appreciate it as a signal as a and not like character assassination of myself and everything else like that. But it was probably like a like all during COVID, honestly, right? Like trying to keep this business moving and trying to figure it out. It was obviously struggling and the hardest time of, I've experienced being a business owner. And I would have these moments of like, woe is me, and I would get back in my head about it. And now it's just I've gotten to the place to where I can just appreciate, and this is gonna sound weird, and I might not be holding this the right way, of you know, uh, it's not gonna be as bad as it used to be, and finding the greatness of that. I have the tools to get out of the hole. And I've got a almost a worn path of getting out of the hole. So as opposed to beating myself up that I'm in the hole, I can now just turn to the tools and frameworks I have to get out of the hole and back on the path.
100%. And I think when you can reframe that success as a human is that
Mhm.
is if I can shorten the depth and duration of my worst days, moments, and years.
Yeah.
That's significant progress because when you raise the floor, you also raise the ceiling. And I'm so grateful for this lesson because it started as a business lesson in profitability. But what I came to be able to see is that it's really applicable to every part of life, and that's really the work I've been doing for the last 9 years is helping people shorten the depth and duration of their worst days, moments, and years.
Yeah.
Because when you start removing the things that are creating that stress, friction, and unhappiness and those cycles for you, life does get so much better,
Yeah.
and like I said, I think that there's a belief that this has to take a long time and it doesn't. And that's the one thing I really hope to impart with people is we feel like it takes a long time because we have this belief system that it's so far away.
Mhm. Yeah. There's
But
there's not even a light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah, but
Yeah.
when you can reframe it and you can create and have a system and a process that every single week I see I'm winning.
Yep.
Every single week, I see my progress. Every single week, I realize how much better I've gotten, how much more I've learned. Um, you don't look at it that way anymore.
Yeah.
It becomes this beautiful journey of being able to appreciate it. And to your point, there are things today that would have literally taken me out for more than a year
Mm.
and I can process them in a matter of hours, maybe 24 hours.
Same.
Um, that is significant progress as a human. My ability to navigate and be resilient and look at the challenges that life brings me and have confidence that I can get through them, that they're not going to take me out, that I can find a lesson in it and move forward. I did not have that a decade ago. I
Same.
really did believe that uh, I was powerless in a lot of respects to create that change. And I think in a world that we sit in today, my hope is to be able to help people understand that there's a path to a much easier way of living without blowing up your whole life,
Yeah.
without spending years or decades trying to figure out the right path for you so that you're not having to consistently feel this feeling that there should be something more for your life. Like those are signs and symptoms that you have misalignment. But when we can understand why, when we can have a system and a process that enables us to see that growth
Mhm.
and keep moving forward, it's game changing. And that really is how I've been able to create so much change in my life and in my clients' lives and my team's life. Um, it is the map I so desperately needed that took me decades to learn so that other people wouldn't have to.
Oh, I it's funny because like, we had a great conversation yesterday to kinda get, prepared for this, right? And I left that conversation, like, humming, right? Like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited," you know? But then talking about it today, I didn't and I struggled to communicate this to people of, like, I didn't even know how stuck I was. Like, I didn't even really understand the corner that I was painting myself into, you know? And so now I'm just so thankful and glad that, like, A, I did get access to some of the mentors and coaches that I've worked with, and that that I was able to pour myself into this stuff, right? So that way it could get better. Like, I think we could probably talk for about 3 days, but for the sake of time, I'd like to move into the rapid fire part of this with the repeatable questions. But, like, please believe, I think we could probably keep talking about this and helping people out for, like, days, but I wanna be super respectful of your time.
Thank you.
When it comes to struggle, every founder has so many options, and it's an endless, uh, kind of process. Am I making the right decisions? Am I spending my time well? When should a founder specifically be thinking about finding a coach to do this kind of work? Is it something that people should start with, or is it something that people should come to whenever they hit a wall or a struggle or they start to feel a little bit burnt out? What would be your advice to someone who's going out as a founder with this idea?
Yeah. As you know, I made my first investment within 6 months of becoming an entrepreneur and
Mhm,
very grateful because I was wasting a lot of time. So, and up until the last year, I consistently had a minimum of one, if not multiple coaches that I was working with,
mhm,
up until actually the last year and a half when I finally got really truly locked in. Um, but I believe so much in the power of having people that can help you see your blind spots
mm,
and um, unlocking a faster path. So I guess I'll take it two ways, depending on where someone is, right? Uh, if you're in a place where you can't financially afford getting that support, get yourself into a community of people who've already done what you're trying to do that can be accountability partners or a board of directors for you and
mhm,
help give you that advice, help you see your blind spots, and shortcut the path. I used to be somebody who didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want to burden people or I felt like I should know the answer.
mhm,
And what I really came to understand is what I call the 48-hour rule. So if you've been trying to solve this problem on your own for 48 hours and you don't have clarity or you feel stuck, that is the time to go ask for help.
I
And
love
so
that.
it has changed my life in the most amazing ways because when you start building intention behind having people that you can go to get those answers, it has saved me months or years of time and a
Mhm,
ton of energy, stress, um, that was unnecessary, right?
yeah,
So I would say that as an initial. Then for people who are at a place where they can invest and what I always say is um, I look for patterns. So the first time I did a more in depth partnership, um, I was seeing these same patterns happening actually in my sales and my client fulfillment. And I was having a lot of stress. So I had one client who didn't show up for a call,
mhm,
and I immediately beat myself up. It must be me. She must be unhappy. She doesn't like what's going on. I'm not a good coach. Da, 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 all the things.
yep,
And 2 weeks pass, and I don't hear from her. I email her all the thing. And then our next call comes, and I find out she's in the hospital. Like literally nothing to do with me at all.
yep,
And it was one of those beautiful moments of like, wait, what is life teaching you in this moment right now?
yeah.
right? That you were so focused and you immediately took it internally
Mhm.
that you didn't even contemplate that there might be something else going on. And so, what I would tell people is when you are seeing a pattern, when something keeps happening that that's creating stress or anxiety or a roadblock for you,
Mhm.
uh, that is absolutely when it's time to get a coach.
Okay.
Or when you lack clarity on um, what is the right next path or how do I create what I want? Those are the perfect moments to bring in somebody that has that level of expertise to help you navigate that because people have no idea the cost, how high the cost is of doing it on your own.
Oh, yeah.
If they knew they would not do it on their own. They really
100%.
have no idea how limited our perspectives are when we don't have the experience or knowledge, to do new things, and I think so often we can get caught into imposter syndrome, feeling not good enough, or having shame around the fact that we need help,
Mhm.
but it's a human thing, so, like, we're shaming ourselves for being human.
Yeah.
If you've not done something before and you're trying to do it yourself and you're struggling, like, if that was a little kid, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, that's your fault that you
Yep.
don't know how to ride the bike. You should figure it out." You know, we would look at that kid and we would say, "They're doing the best. They've never done this before. They need somebody to help guide them." And I think, especially if you are someone who has been a high achiever, um, it's so easy to get caught into believing that you need to do it on your own or that it's a negative to need help. But what I found over and over again, and if you look, the highest performers have the most help.
Yeah.
They have people around them that they're constantly seeking guidance and support and opening doors, and they're looking for the most effective path. And that I think is really important. If you're a founder and you're running to run a business, right? You need to be looking for the most effective way to do what you're doing because your energy and your time are finite.
Yep.
And if you are spending a lot of energy and time trying to figure out something that you don't have clarity on or you don't know how to do it, that's not a positive. That's a negative, right?
Yeah.
That is you um, using a fear to stand in the way of the work that you're actually here to do. And that is that fear driving your inability to show up with your family the way you want, to show up for your health the way you want, to show up for your business the way that you want. And once I could shift and see that more clearly, it became evident to me that what I thought in my head was responsible, I'll do it myself, was actually probably one of the most irresponsible and honestly more selfish decisions because it was stopping me from being able to really show up and support the people I wanted to support.
Epic. Great answer. Next one. What is a piece of business advice that you can now appreciate in the form of a tweet or a business maxim, but you had to learn it the hard way yourself?
I think it would be, yeah, my golden message, which is life is always teaching you lessons and you're going to keep getting them until you learn them. Um, we will tolerate, well, we get what we tolerate in life.
Mhm.
And many of us uh, are tolerating too much. And then we're disappointed with the experience that we're having. I was tolerating um, circumstances where I felt like I had to work 60 hours a week in order to achieve what I needed to achieve, even though I wasn't given the resources that I needed to
Mhm.
do that work. And rather than figuring out what my line was or how I could protect my health and what I was willing to do, um, I self sacrificed.
Mm.
And that cost me tremendously. And I think so often it can become really easy to get upset that we feel like we aren't given what we need, or maybe there are people that are taking advantage of us, or we feel like the circumstances are requiring us to do things that are too much
Mhm.
outside of the boundaries of what feels good to us. But if we tolerate that, we'll keep getting it.
Mhm.
And so often, what I didn't realize was my belief was that if I didn't do those things, I would be branded My career reputation would be ruined. I would lose relationships. Um, I would create all this risk. And I think that that keeps so many of us stuck instead of beginning to say, how can I um, get to a place where I am operating in alignment with things that are healthy for me, that are giving back to me without creating that risk. And there are some people and some circumstances that maybe you do need to walk from.
For sure.
And learning and understanding that not everyone and not every circumstance is for us. And that's okay. That's not a judgment of you.
Yeah.
It's honoring, just like what you talked about before, it's honoring your value system. That person you went to work with had a very different value system than you did. And
Hmm.
continuing to try and force that person to have the level of integrity that you have or see things the way that you see them is a huge waste of your time, energy, and effort.
Hmm.
Instead of just
Yep.
acknowledging, do you know what? This person has this value system and it's incongruent with mine. And so rather than abandoning myself or trying to change somebody else, I can say, you know what, this isn't working for me. And how can I create an outcome that is best for everyone?
Epic. Last question, Blake. This has been such a cool conversation, and we didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about your founder path, but I think that everything we're talking about here is going to help a ton of people, whether they're thinking about becoming a founder or they're on this path themselves, and maybe they're selling themselves into things that don't make any sense. Um, you've been in the space for a while. You've gone through some things. What is your word of warning for someone who's going to go off on their own and hang a shingle or try to go, down the founder's path? Anything that you think would be helpful for them on their early days?
Yeah. Especially as an entrepreneur. Um, we live in a society that benefits from keeping people stuck in believing that they're broken, something's wrong with them, and they should fear the worst outcome. And so many businesses are built on that, like the entire foundation. If you look even what's happening globally right now, what's happening in the United States right now is built on creating the belief that people don't have the power or aren't capable of creating what they want. And so when I look at the landscape, you know, from what I've experienced and what I've been through, is uh, people are very quick to sell you on what's wrong with you and why you need all of these things.
Mhm.
Um, be very wary of believing that there is a silver bullet that's going to solve all of your problems. Just build this one funnel and then
Yep.
everything will be great. This one thing will only take 5 minutes a day. Um, because the reality as a founder is that you have to develop the skills.
Mhm.
There are many different skills, right? It's not learning one thing. It's learning marketing. It's learning sales. It's learning customer fulfillment. It's learning who you are in the market, what kind of results you create. It's a constant evolution.
Yep.
And I think so often what I see is founders chasing the next program or the next thing that's going to solve their problem. And uh, they're actually often solving the wrong problem.
100%. Oh my gosh. So,
And so I think that we have so many people chasing money, thinking that is going to create the life they want without
mhm.
really getting clear on what are the things I need to create that life and how can I start creating that now?
Yeah.
And how am I moving into that now versus hoping that a program is going to give me that solution? And so for me, what I always say is, I think there's so much value in um, finding an expert who can really help you get clear on how you operate best, what you value, what you want to create, and then understanding what are the skills or tools you need in the right sequence to get there. Um, because, like I said, so many other things are like selling all of these tools and tactics. And it's really easy to believe that all these tools and tactics will solve and give you what you want. But what I often see is it creates a lot of chaos, a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted money, and ends up creating a very frustrated founder
Yeah.
because they've done so much, but the things they're doing aren't actually, as my old mentor would call, the first kink in the hose. If you think about like a water hose that's all built up, so many times we're focusing on the third or the fourth kink,
Mhm.
but we're not focusing on the one thing that if you fix that kink, then the water would flow and then
Yep.
it would help actually undo kinks 2, 3, and 4. And so, having somebody who has more of a holistic understanding of that versus just selling you tools and tactics will get you where you want to go a lot faster.
100%. Oh my god, so well said. Um, yeah, it's I love that. I love that analogy of the hose with the kinks in it, right? Because, like, I'll talk to people and they're like, "How do I overcome this objection?" "What did they tell you the problem was?" "Well, they didn't really tell me they had a problem." "Okay, what are we doing here?" You know? And so, yeah, it's very, very easy to get sold on something that you think will help, but it's actually not going to be very helpful. Like,
Mhm.
if people wanna come hang out with you, learn more about the work that you're doing, or, kinda keep up with you on your path, where's the best place for them to come hang out, catch up with you?
Yeah. So I have a podcast, a weekly podcast called Impact with Ease, and they're welcome to come join. It's really where I talk to professionals to help them understand how they can um, have sustainable success. How can I do work that I find fulfilling without having to sacrifice, all these other things, my income, my career, my health, my life, etc. And also, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So that's a great place. Anybody that's listening to this that got value, I'd love to hear from you. Um, for me, it's always about the ripple effect, impact. And so, if there's anything that I've shared that was helpful, it's always fun to be able to hear that from people and just know that the time that we spent together had that impact for somebody else.
Awesome. Blake, again, I know we didn't really normally we dive very deep into the path of the founder, but we got so deep into this other topic that I think is actually gonna be so helpful to a lot of people. So I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate you coming in and talking through all of this stuff. I think it's gonna help a lot of people.
Thank you, John. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.